Hello, this is Coily Girls World, and you're now just stepped into the Coily Zone. I'm Tina. Welcome. If you're new to my channel, I want to welcome you and encourage you to stay in the Coily Zone by clicking that red button down there and turning on the notifications. Today, I'm coming at you with another story time. So y'all, this one's gonna be kind of long-winded because I'm trying to wrap up. I'm tying up all the loose ends concerning the Unrequited Love and Confusion series. So this is the final installment, and y'all need to grab some popcorn. Get your popcorn on. Get your snack now. Get your little drink, your soda, whatever you want. See, I got my water. And let's talk. I'm about to spill some real tea, y'all. So y'all better get your cups and grab it for real. For those that don't know, if you didn't see the first part or the two videos or whatever, I'm talking about my experience, my coming of age experience from hell. And in this part, I'm mainly focusing on C. Anybody that watched it know who C is. I'm really going to tell you what actually happened between me and C, the whole situation, and I'm going to do it as gently and respectfully as possible because C is no longer in the land of the living. He passed on like a decade or so ago, and I just want to be respectful to any of his friends that may watch this or family members that may come across it. So I'm trying to be, careful about that. So anyway, let me do a recap real quick, a real fast recap. For those that don't know, this is the quick version. So if you want the juicy tidbit, you gotta watch it, okay? So what happened was, in 7th grade, I met this guy. I'm giving all the people involved letters. I met this guy named R. And R and I became friends, and I developed a crush on R. So we all go to the movies as friends, like as a group, and I meet his brother Jay. And then from there, for like a couple of years, I say like 2 years or so, I was going back and forth between the both of them. Nothing sexual, just lighthearted, like kiddie stuff or whatever, just having crushes on both of them. And then one of my friends, call her S, she and I had a bet to see who could get Jay, because Jay was older than us by he was older than her by 3 or 4 years. He was older than me by 2 or 3 years. So he was already in the high school. We were in junior high. So we were trying to see if we could get Jay to ask us out. It was just all in fun or whatever. So we had this back and forth thing. Like whenever she was trying to work on him, I was like being friends, hanging out with R. So it wasn't anything sexual or anything like that. So finally, to get up to the C part, R gets tired of it altogether. Me going back and forth between them. At that point, S dropped off because out of the whole thing, out of the bet, because first of all, me and her had fallen out, and then because of something shiesty she did, and on top of that, Jay was not giving her like the attention that she wanted or whatever. I mean, in the beginning he was, but then after a while, it was like she was like, forget it. She started like somebody else. So then I was still between the two of them, and then R was just like, listen, I have somebody who I want you to meet. And he was like, you're gonna like him. So then I was like, oh my gosh, they're really tired of me. Now, just to catch y'all up to speed at this point, I was friends with his sister, and we all had mutual friends. I'll call her N. And at this point, N and I, because I was leaving junior high and stuff like that, there was like some kind of distance between us. It wasn't like we hated each other, but I don't know, over the summer I didn't see her because I wasn't going over to the house, and And, you know, like I said, R and J, they were getting tired of me going back and forth. So I hadn't seen N, and we weren't hanging out. So I was like, I still had feelings for Jay. I really truly had feelings for Jay. But we had a relationship, but it was like a friend zone kind of thing. We were doing things that girlfriend and boyfriends do without the assurance that, yeah, we were official, we weren't official. So I was like, okay, I didn't want to lose like being around Jay, so I didn't want to lose my friends. So what I did was to stay in the group, to stay next to Jay. I ended up saying, well, first, before I even said okay, I had called Jay, you know, because I was like, yeah, I have somebody, his name is C. And he was like, he's already in the high school, and he was like, you know, I'll hook you guys up. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, this is it for me, you know? So then I was like, oh, this is it for me. So then what happened was I called, I guess, I don't know, it was the same day or the next day, it doesn't matter, but I called Jay and I asked Jay, I was like, you know, I don't know, C, like, what do you think about him? What do you think about, you know, what R is saying? And he was like, I think that you should, he said, he's cool, and I think that you should date him. So I was like he's really saying this. So like my little feels going like so crushed. So I was like, you know what? Okay, since you want to play these games, all right, I'll date C. So it was like the summertime now, right? We were just entering into the summertime. So I was back and forth between my house and my aunt's house. And over the summer I would stay like months, sometimes a month or two over at my aunt's house, but I was always like back and forth between the houses. So at my house, I called R and I was like, okay. I said, I want to meet C. And then he was like, well, here's his number. Over the weekend, I went to my aunt's house. And then I called C from my aunt's house because my cousin Cinda and Nita were there. So I had Cinda call because I was scared to death. I didn't know him. So then we started talking over the phone. And I was like, wow, like his voice sounded real deep. Like he sounded like he would be cute. Mind you, I've never seen him. All the times I hung out with R and C and Ann and over their house, I never met this guy before. So then we're sitting there, we're talking and everything, and having a good time. Him, myself, and my cousin. So she's like in the mix of it and like making it like easier for me to talk to dude, right? So then we're gonna fast forward, and I never, over the summertime, I just spoke to him. I never met him. We just had conversations over the phone, developed a relationship. He had like a very like extra, like he had a he was like extroverted. He had extroverted type personality. So because he was like that, he was just as extroverted as Jay. So I was like, ooh, you know, I think I'm gonna like him, you know, because I like guys with extrovert type personalities or whatever. So I was like, okay, this might work, you know. So then I go to before I go, I have to say this. Before I went to school, my cousins came over to my aunt's house one of the weekends I had spent over there over the summer. So my cousins come in, and oh my gosh, I love my cousins. Like they just always like mad cool. Like they were popular, everybody knew them and stuff. So they brought their friend Kay with them. So Kay is looking at me, I'm looking at him, and then my aunt is like, Kay, this is Tina, this is Kay, and I'm like, oh, okay, hi. So she's like, oh, she going to the school. So he's like, where are you coming up there? And I was like, yeah, I'll be up there. So my aunt, now mind you, Kay was getting kind of flirty, okay? Kay was getting flirty over there, okay? But I was like, ooh, I got a man, okay? I got a man. No. My aunt was like, Kay, I want you to look out for her. because she's coming up there. So then he said, word, he said, that's not a problem. He said, no doubt. He said, I got her or whatever. So then I was like, okay. I said, phew, because I was nervous about going up there to the high school, you know, because the high school is like crazy, you know. There was a lot of fights. It wasn't, I can't say it was as bad as other schools, but I say about once a week or once every other 2 weeks or whatever, there was always a fight, and it was always with females or males, and you know, it could be like a scary place. Now I had other cousins from my other side of the family up there, so I had like people up there that I knew, you know. So but I still was like nervous. So Kate said he would watch over me, so I was like, okay, that's cool. So then the first day of school, I get there, and lo and behold, who is waiting for me in the foyer but J, R, and C. So I'm gonna be honest with you. When I saw C, I was like, oh, he's not as good looking as J, because J was like gorgeous, like whew. He's like super fine, like, but C was good looking. Don't get me wrong, C was not ugly or anything like that, but he was, you know, he wasn't as that super fine, you know. So then we were all talking, and then they introduced us, and I don't think I was what he expected, and I don't think that he was what, you know, he wasn't what I expected, but still, you know, we had a decision to make. We could have not gone out, we could have gone out, but we liked each other, and we, you know, I always had like a good time with him. So, you know, during school or whatever, that day, you know, he walked me to my classes and everything, and I was like, oh. And then the time when he couldn't get to me because like he was on the other side of the building, Jay would be around to like walk me to my classes or help me or whatever. So, you know, we had a good time or whatever. It was fun. And the first day of school, you know, I saw all my cousins. I saw Kay and his friends, and I was like, bet, like this is gonna be great, you know. So everything's chill, everything's cool. I'm meeting new people, I'm having fun, I'm making friends, working on my popularity status, because in 8th grade, let me tell you, I was very popular. So I was trying to get that. I was like, ooh, I gotta build it back up, you know how kids think, you know. So then we make it official because we decided that, you know, we both liked each other. So we were making it official that we were going to stay together. So I don't want to focus on the bad stuff right this second, but I don't know why I feel like I'm going to cry, but I'm not going to cry. Okay. He would started coming, like, we would start spending time outside of school together. And one day I was like, he was like, what you doing? And I was like, because I called him, and he was at his house. So I said, oh, I'm baking cookies, Toll House cookies. He was like, oh, I want some cookies. So I was like, yo, how am I gonna get it there to you? Like, you know, I can't get there, I can't walk to your house or whatever. So then he was like, I'm coming over. So I'm like, how are you coming over? Because he lived on the south side. But he didn't go to the south side school. He went to my school. I lived in the station part. So I'm like, how is he gonna get? He gonna walk all the way over here? So he was like, no, I have a moped. He was like, I'm coming over. So I was like, oh boy, he got a moped. See now, y'all, back in the day, if somebody had a moped, like, ooh, you was like it. You was fly. Like you was, ooh, you was cool. You had a moped. So I was like, oh, well, I got a man with a moped. Yes, you know. So he comes over on his moped, his little, like, it was blue, like a light blue moped. I was like, oh, this is hot, you know. So then he meets my mother. Now, mind you, he's meeting my mother. Now, keep in mind, I never met his family. Not ever. I seen his brother. Once. But I never met, like, because he had a lot of brothers. I never met them. He was always talking about them. Or I would talk to the brother over the phone. But I never knew them because they were way older than us. They were like grown. So I was like, So he came and he met my mom, and then she left us outside, and he's doing some freaky stuff with his eyes, and he's like moving it so fast like you couldn't see his cornea. Like he was taking his, I can't even do it, he's taking his eyes, doing this with his eyes. I didn't know how he did it, but you couldn't see his cornea. It was freaky. And I was like, oh shoot, that's so cool, you know. So then he takes the, he said, before he leaves, he was like, I want to kiss you. So I was like, so I kind of like, I'm nervous. I'm like backing up, and he's like, give me a kiss like that. And I was like, oh my gosh. So then I'm thinking like little, like those little kind of kisses. Oh no, dude landed like, I mean, tongue in there, everything. I'm like, oh shoot, you know. So I was like, oh my gosh, I have my first kiss. Oh shoot. So then he takes the plate. And then I was like, you going home? He was like, no, I'm going to R's house. So then I was like, okay. So I said, I'll call you over there once you get there, or call me or whatever. So I don't know who called who, but we ended up on the phone. So I'm hearing like R in the background talking about, oh, them cookies is good. I'm hearing Jay like, yeah, thank you for the cookies. And I'm like, they like having a good time. So it was like fun. And he kept coming to the house and like, you know, take me on his moped, and we riding all over town. Like he's like we weren't wearing helmets back then, okay, because helmets, it wasn't like the law to wear the helmet, okay guys. So he's like bending down like this, and he's like, and then the wind is like rushing in my face. He's like, see, that's what I'm feeling right now, that's what I'm feeling. And then, you know, we just always had fun. Okay, fast forward to school. Everybody in the school know that we are a couple. Everybody, people I don't even know that we're a couple. People I don't even talk to like that knew that we were a couple. And it started getting ugly. You know, there was this one guy, JW, and he's black or whatever. He didn't like him, or maybe he didn't like the fact that, you know, we were an item or whatever. So he would walk past and be giving me looks, but we were, mind you, JW and I we were like associates, and we were cool. And he used to like me in junior high, and we would talk on the phone and stuff, but I didn't like him like that. And you know, we used to play the dozens and stuff. For those that don't know what that is like you cracking on your mother, you cracking on each other. We used to play the dozens together. So I'm just thinking like, you know, what is this? Like, you know, what's the problem? So he walked past and look at us together, because we were like holding hands in the school or whatever. He's like, oh, I smell something. And I was just like, oh my gosh, like, please, let's not. And then, you know, I had other guys like, you know, I had G that was G was always cracking on me though. G was always getting on me. He would say stuff, and then C would put him in his place and stuff like that. And then oh my gosh, like, now the Spanish side, I was friends with them, but some of the guys I wasn't. So they would like say, some of them were on the football team, and they're telling C like, yo, she ugly, you could do better than that. And I would hear them like here and there. And then one guy in particular, I was friends with his girlfriend, and then he was like, yo, you ugly, I don't know what he's seeing you just ill. And I was like, well, you fat, you MFer, and like cursing him out and stuff like that. And he was on a football team, and it was just like, I was just so like, people just picking at us. And then, well, so far that was how I got picked at. But then with C, it was like worse, because JW was very popular, and JW was also on the football team. And he would like, one time we were holding hands, and JW was like, oh, get in my way. And then he like does this and like gets in between us. And I was like, oh my gosh. So then C started getting pissed. So then one time I was at C at his locker, and then JW like rose up on him. He was like, yo, he was like, Tina, you know, you need to step to the side. He was like, right away. He was like, because I'm about to take your punk ass boyfriend, and he said, and throw him through these lockers. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I'm looking around like, oh gosh, they're getting ready to fight. Because he was like raising up. So I was like, oh my gosh. Like, so I was looking around, and then finally I make eye contact with Kay, and then Kay comes up. So, you know, before Kay actually came all the way over, it was like JW was like, yo, he was like, I heard your punk ass was talking SHIT about me. And then I was like, he's never saying, you know, I'm looking like, I'm shocked. At first, in my mind, I'm like, he's not talking about you. Like, what are you talking about? He's never talking about you. So then, see, it's like, he was like, yo, so that he starts raising back up at him. And he was like, look, he was like, I'm not saying nothing about you. He's like, I'm minding my business. And, you know, he's like sticking up for himself. And then Kay comes over and he's like, yo, JW, he was like, chill. He's like, come on. He was like, handle that later. He's like, handle that later. So he was like, yo, he was like, no, because he said, I'm gonna do him. He said, okay. He's like, you know what, if I don't do you now, he's like, I'm gonna do you later. So I was like, oh my gosh. So then I think Kay really talked to JW, because after that day, it was like we didn't have any problems. Like, none of that stuff. He wasn't doing all that stuff like he was before, and we were just getting along or whatever. But I was still getting like his, like the Spanish guys that knew his brothers and stuff like that, they were like saying to him, she's ugly, you need to get somebody else, like you need to dump her, right? So keep that in mind. Let me take a drink break, y'all. So when we were getting close, I was going over there to Jay and R's house because that's where C would be. And, you know, me going to the next level, okay, we making out and stuff like that. So then, it was like, I started hanging out with him more. We're going places, you know, do what girlfriend, boyfriends do. So I had my friend A, she was coming with me a lot of times with him and stuff like that. So they were talking. Sometimes, you know, we all be talking on the phone and stuff like that. First mistake. A lot of times I would be with him over at Jay and R's house. When I would go over to Jay and R's house, A was nowhere in the picture at all. So I had a friend named Z that R was dating. So a lot of times we would go over to the house and stuff like that. But at some point, because I'm gonna skip a lot of stuff because this is long. At some point, I had another friend, we'll call her Zapata. She approaches me, and I'm with another friend. I want to say T. I don't know where we were. I can't remember where we were. All I know is Zapata was like, she was like, you dating C, right? So I was like, yeah. She was like, you need to dump him. And I was like, why? She's like, because he's a-hole. And I was like, well, why are you saying that? She was like, because she was like, my boyfriend was telling me that he was at the dairy barn talking all this SHIT about you. She was like, you know, things that you have given him, like he's showing them stuff. And I was like, what the heck? So then she's like, she was like, I hate that MFer. She was like, he's so nasty. She was like, he's just disgusting. And I was like, you know, I'm like trying to figure out like what is going on here. So then I asked him about it, and then he was like, oh, he was like, that cockeyed B, she's lying and such and such. And I was like, first of all, why you gotta disrespect her? I was like, you know, if her boyfriend told her that, that's not her fault, you know. So he was like, yo, they lying. He was like, you know, so mind you, I didn't really press him. I don't know who I was with, but I was with somebody. And I was on my way to go. I probably was A, because a lot of times she would go with me when we were younger, when I was in junior high, to go see Jay on his job. Now his job was right next door to his house, and he worked in a dairy barn, and he was a manager. So there are some times where he was like managing himself. So the guy, what was happening was the days that he didn't have another guy with him on the shift, like the other boys would come to the to the dairy barn, and that's where they be doing their guy thing. And let me tell you, they was all talking, okay? So then finally, like, I go up there one day, and you know, I was gonna meet him. So then there was this kid named Mon who I ended up with at the end of it all. Like, at the end of the whole thing, me and him ended up hooking up, and it was the best thing I ever did. So Mon was like, he comes up to me and he's like, "You Tina, right?" So I'm like, yeah, but we hadn't seen each other. We grew, like, I would go to my other aunt's house, and he lived behind her. He gave me my first cat and all this other stuff. But we hadn't seen each other for like years. And then, so I kind of, it was like we were like being like reintroduced to each other. So then Mom was like, "Yeah, you Tina." So first of all, I was like, well, how he know it's me? Because, you know, we haven't seen each other in years, and, you know, I look different. So obviously he must have been showing like a pic up there at the dairy barn. So I was like, wait a minute. I was like, yeah, I'm Tina. He was like, "Go out with C, right?" And I was like, yeah. He was like, man, he was like, "You need to drop him." And I was like, "Why are you saying that?" And he was like, "Because," he was like, "You know what?" He was like, "He's talking all this shit about you at the dairy barn." So we were like not too far, and I see all these guys. He said, "You see all them guys over there?" And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "He's talking all this shit, and he's showing them like stuff." And I'm like I'm trying to figure out like what stuff is he showing, you know? So then he was like, "Yeah, he's always talking mad shit about you." He was like, "Man," he's like, "I'm sorry." He's like, "I don't mean to pry. I don't mean to get in your business." He said, "But you sound like a nice person." And he was like, "You know, I really, you know, I just think you should dump him." So I was like, okay. I was pissed. I left. I didn't see him. I went back home, and I called him later, and I questioned him. I was like, "Yo, I was up there. I saw all these guys up there at Dairy Barn." I was like, "What the heck?" I was like, and somebody approached me and told me, "You was talking all this junk about me." So he's like, "Who was it?" I was like, "It doesn't matter." I was like, you know, you talking junk. And I said, "This is the second person." I said, "Maybe we should just break up because, you know, you're doing all this." So he was like, no. He was like, "That person is probably just, you know, lying because, you know, maybe jealous and stuff like that." So I was like, come on. He was like, "I love you." And he was like, "I wouldn't do anything to hurt you." And he was like, "Trust and believe." He said, "I'm going to make everybody stop talking." He was like, "Just don't worry about it." So I was like, okay. I wasn't just taking his word for it, because let me tell you, I was stupid, but I wasn't that stupid, because I had called R. So I said, "R, apparently I talked to somebody, and it was telling me that C was over here like talking all this stuff about me at the dairy barn." So he was like, "Well," he's like, "I'm gonna tell you this." He was like, "C and I, we're like brothers, we're like best friends. So whatever happens in his life," he said, "that's between me, C, and God." So I was like, okay. So I was like, "Oh, can I money, please?" So then he's like, "Yeah." So he puts, I just said his name. So I was like, oh, I gotta cut this out. Ooh, the magic of editing, because I said his name. So then I said, "Can I talk to Jay, please?" So then he was like, "Yeah." So he puts Jay on the phone. Whew. So then I said, "Jay," I said, "I'm hearing this stuff. What's going on at that dairy barn?" I said, "I seen all these guys, and somebody said to me that C is talking all this junk about me at the dairy barn." So he was like, "You talked to C, right?" So I was like, "Yeah." He said, "Okay, but what did he say?" So I was like, he didn't tell me nothing. I said, "Jay, tell me what is going on." So he was like, "No." He was like, "You talked to him. What did he say?" So I said, he was saying that everybody was lying. He's like, "You believe him?" So I was like, "I don't know. Should I?" He was like, "No, do you believe him?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, in a way." He was like, you're stupid. And he's like, "Oh, I'm just kidding." Like that. So then I was like, Jay, just tell me. He's like, look, he's like, I can't tell you either way. He said, but all I can tell you is if you believe him, then you guys go on and, you know, you continue to have a relationship with him, whatever. So I was like, okay. Me at some point, he asked me to go over there to Jay's house. But this one particular time that just stands out in my mind, like Jay was just looking like so like, he was happy to see me, and then he said he was playing his tapes or whatever, because like we both were big into different genre of music. You know, we would cross different genres and whatever. So he's like playing our favorite group or whatever. He's making like tape for himself at first. So I was like, oh, so then, you know, we were talking, and then he said he wanted to make a tape for me. So I was like, okay. So C comes. At first we were in the living room, and C's like, come on, let's go. Because at first we were watching a movie, and then C was like, come with me. So then he's like pulling me or whatever. So then he was like, wait, hold on. So he went to the bathroom, and then Jay is looking at me like so weird. I can't even explain it, but he was looking at me like he didn't want me to like go anywhere with this guy. So I was like sitting there, we're talking, and all of a sudden C is like pulling on me. He's like, come on, let's go into the room. Like, so I'm like, you know what, like I kind of like pulled kind of back, but then he let go of my arm, and then Jay was like holding on to my other hand. He was like, stay here. He's like, don't go. He's like, stay with me out here, right? And I'm like, you know, like, Jay, what's the matter, you know? So he's like, just stay with me. So he's looking all guilty. He's looking all like scared for me, you know, like he's just looking like I'm sorry and all this other stuff. So then I was like, what is going on? So then C pulls my other hand. He's like, she don't want to be with you. And then he pulls me into the room. We make out. So then I was like done. I was like, you know, okay, I'll go back out there. So we went back out there with Jay, and then Jay is looking all hurt. He's looking like, here's your tape. Like, he's just like, just take it. He just, I can't even do the look, okay? So then I take it, and he dedicated like songs on there to me, but I really didn't get them. I didn't like understand the lyrics. It was just a little bit too deep for me, because, you know, I had like a little kid mind. So then I leave, and let me fast forward. It's getting close to Christmas time. So one day, me and R, we hang out after school. I can't even tell you why. I don't know if I was looking for C and he wasn't around or whatever. I don't know why. But, oh, no, R invited me. That's what happened. R invited me to go Christmas shopping with him, because he wanted me to help him pick out stuff for Z. So I was like, okay. So then we would go to the music store. We was looking around. He's like, what should I get Z? You know, we spending time in there, you know, time at the mall. We were having a good time. And then finally, I was telling him, I think you should get this. I think you should get that. And so he's like, you know, with his next check, that's what he's going to do, blah, blah, blah. So then I was like, what should I get C? Because, you know, I don't know what to get him. So then he goes, you should get him something really nice. So I was like, why are you saying that? He's like, he got you something really nice. You're gonna love it. So I was like, what is it? Oh, what is it? So then he was like, I cannot tell you. He's like, 'cause he'll get mad at me. But he was like, you're gonna love it. So I was like, what is it? And he was like, okay. He's like, I'll tell you this. It's jewelry. I was like, oh shoot. Rings it, you know. I was like, oh yeah, you know. So I was like excited. So we went home, went our separate ways, and then one day I get a call from A, and she was like, guess what? Because, you know, after a while, like I would be calling C, and he'd be like rushing off the phone. So then I was like, okay, you know, I know what's going on. He was like, oh, I'm going to come over. He never would. So then I was like, okay. I was waiting for him to call me or whatever. And I get a call from A, and she's like, your man's over here. So I'm like, for what? So she was like, oh, he's just stopping by to say hi. She was like, we're gonna come over, but they never did. So, you know, I call his house like later on. He wasn't there. So I was like, okay. So then I called R's house, and then we started talking, and then eventually he calls me, and then he was like, I'm sorry. He's like, I just went back home, you know, making all these excuses. So then, you know, we would see each other in school, and, you know, but it wasn't like we would see each other, you know, but we wasn't, it just felt like there was something weird going on there. So then, I call R's house because it was like dude was go. So R was like, yeah, he was like, I said, you know, he's never around. I know what's going on. Why is he not returning? Like, where is he? So then R was like, he's like, I know. He's like, I'm sorry about that. So I was like, I said, you know, we were talking. You know, I wasn't paying attention to the clues. I wasn't paying attention to the signs because this is my coming age experience. I never had anything to deal with anything like that. I talking, and R's like, I have something I have to tell you. So I was like, what? So I'm starting to get all like the way he's saying, he sounds so serious, and I'm like, what's happening? Like, you know, R, like, what's wrong? So then he goes, you know how when we were in 7th grade and 8th grade, and I was like, yeah. And he said, you know how we used to spend so much time on the phone and we watch movies together? And I said, yes. And then he was like, I liked you. And I was like, what? I was like, you did? You what? He's like, I liked you then. And I was like, well, why are you telling me this now? I was like, why didn't you say something? And he was like, I don't know. He's like, I don't know. But he was like, I liked you then. He's like, I don't like you now. He's like, but I liked you then. Now, he was saying that because, of course, you know, he's going out with my friend. So I was like, no, I know. I said, I know you don't like me now. I was like, oh, I was like, R. I was like, oh, why did you say that? Like, I was like, but you want to know the truth? He's like, what? I said, I liked you too. He was like, you did? And I was like, yes. I said, I liked you in like around 7th grade. So he was like, wow. He was like, oh man. He was like, so we were like talking and stuff, and then I get on the phone with Jay. No, I didn't get on the phone with Jay. I hung up. And then like a few days went by, and I called over there to R and Jay's house, and Jay invited me to come over. So Jay was showing me like he was getting into some stuff that he should not have been getting into. He was showing me what he was doing, you know, and I was trying to talk him out of certain things that he was getting involved in, and it wasn't working. He wasn't listening. So I can't remember what happened that day, but all I just remember was me being over there and just hanging out with him, and I was like, you know, I don't like this, you know. So I think I left or whatever, and he said, he mentioned, before I left, he mentioned something about C, and he was like, you know, C should really, something to the effect like, C should really be here, you know. So, okay, we're going to fast forward. Finally, I get a call, and from A, and she's like, I want you to meet me at R and Jay's house. So I'm like, A, why am I meeting you at R and Jay's house? So she was like, I want you to meet me over here. She's like, I got something to tell you. So I'm like scared now, because I'm like, oh shoot. But I actually cursed. So then I called Jay, and I was like, Jay, what's going on? I mean, I said, A and C. A is telling me that she wants me to meet her at the house, at your house. He was like, don't come over here. Don't come. He's like, don't even come. And I was like, why? He was like, that B. He was like, don't come. So I was like, I said, well, what's going on? Like, what's happening? So he was like, you know what, you come, you're gonna find out what's happening. He's like, you gonna come? He's like, come on. He's like, come and find out what's happening. He was like, you know, I'm sorry about this. So I was like, yo, now I'm getting scared, because I'm like, yo, dude is apologizing for something that ain't even happening. What's going on? So I get myself together, I go over there.